Joining me now is New York Post columnist and Fox News contributor Miranda Devine. Miranda, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. So now it looks like he's doing a 180, and you're not buying it.
Absolutely not. Look, I think it's welcome that he's changed these policies at Meta. He's read the tea leaves and read the room, but he has a lot of atonement to do. I think Devin Nunes is quite right. Why not become a champion of free speech with your money rather than a few cheap words? I think the problem really, regardless of how repulsive Mark Zuckerberg's sort of personal about-face has been, I think the real point is that much power over speech and thought should not be controlled by one man, and especially one who's shown himself to be as much of a toady as Zuckerberg.
Yeah, no, I agree, but the power is in the hands of these social media companies. You know that, right? I mean, we'll see what happens. Well, yeah, go ahead, Miranda.
I mean, it's not really, because the administration has an enormous amount of power, and that was why Zuckerberg, I think, buckled so readily to the threats of the Biden administration and just merrily censored away. The same power is wielded by Donald Trump, and I think it shouldn't be used as a casual threat just to get Zuckerberg and Meta to do what he wants, but instead to break up these social media monopolies, behemoths, just like Teddy Roosevelt did with the railways back in the early 1900s.
That's a great point, Miranda. You know, I mean, look, Mark Zuckerberg went on a podcast the other day and was telling everybody how the Biden administration was bullying them, right? So, I mean, how do you stop that? I mean, calling, screaming, take this down, censor this, censor that. And he said that it became really hard. Now we see, of course, Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, and a lot of business leaders are going to the inauguration, President Trump's inauguration on Monday, choosing to go to Washington instead of the Davos forum in Switzerland, Miranda.
Isn't that symbolic?
Yeah.
But look, I mean, Zuckerberg was there. He was censoring away. He knew that he'd been bullied by the Biden administration, and he kept his mouth shut during that landmark free speech lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court, Murthy versus Missouri, which was, you know, initially Missouri versus Biden. He could have really helped that case a lot. Instead, he just kept his mouth shut.
Let me get your take on what's to come, because the Securities and Exchange Commission just filed suit against Elon Musk, Miranda, over allegations that he misled shareholders about his 2022 Twitter stock buys. The suit claims that Musk's delayed ownership disclosure allowed him to save more than $150 million while buying Twitter stock. Musk also being accused of violating a rule which requires investors who own at least a 5% stake in a public company to disclose their ownership within 10 days. Apparently, Musk allegedly did not do so until 11 days after the deadline. Current SEC Chairman Gary Gensler stepping down in just a few days. Trump selecting Republican lawyer Paul Atkins to replace him, Miranda. And I know there's a lot of optimism around Paul Atkins shutting down agencies, consolidating agencies, cutting regulation, which is going to be night and day for corporate America. But what's your reaction in terms of this Musk suit?
Look, it's another example of Joe Biden weaponizing, politicizing the federal government to go after his enemies. And here's Gary Gensler, remember, who was the former CFO of Hillary Clinton's failed 2016 campaign, a progressive Democrat through and through, just obliging Joe Biden. And here's another attack on Elon Musk, who they regard as a turncoat because he embraced Donald Trump. Elon Musk's lawyer calls this a sham, and no doubt when Paul Atkins comes in, he'll discard it as a worthless attempt. But what it will do is just provide more fodder for resistance media to attack Donald Trump and create a new scandal.
So compare the treatment of Elon Musk to that of Mark Zuckerberg. Miranda, how do you compare these two?
Well, Joe Biden obviously has declared a couple of years ago that Elon Musk was persona non grata, their enemy, And he's had, coincidentally or not, several federal agencies go after him. And that was because of his decision to open up Twitter, to remove the censorship, to allow us to see how the censorship was conducted and really embarrass the Biden administration. And so Mark Zuckerberg, on the other hand, just kept in good, and it really embraced all the policies. He's on record. There was a Project Veritas recording of one of his staff meetings in which he was all in on every one of the Biden administration policies, including opening the borders and so on. And so now he's decided at the 11th hour that he's on board the Trump train. And certainly Donald Trump's invited him to Mar-a-Lago twice now since the election. But I think it's more like a cat playing with a mouse. I think he enjoys watching him squirm.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let me get your take on the Jack Smith news. The first round of former special counsel Jack Smith's report on Trump's 2020 election case was released earlier this week. Jack Smith claimed that Trump, quote, would have been convicted if he did not win the presidency, Miranda. Trump responded by calling Jack Smith desperate and deranged. Former special counsel David Weiss also dropped his final report on the Hunter Biden investigations. Weiss slammed President Biden for what he says is rewriting history after Biden said the prosecution of his son was political. Miranda, this has to be somewhat personal for you as well. You did so much work on the Hunter Biden laptop, and you wrote an incredible book, The Laptop from Hell, which is a must-read for anybody. And now you've got, Joe Biden calling all of this political.
Yeah, I mean, it's an irony, isn't it? It's just tackling the David Weiss report, special counsel report on the Hunter Biden investigation. It's a flimsy 27 pages, very thin gruel after 6 years of a really tortured and corrupted investigation. We know how corrupted it was because of the very brave whistleblowers from the IRS, Gary Shapley and Joe Ziegler. They are still being retaliated against, still being victimised by their cowardly bosses at the IRS, even though they are the top of the top. Gary Shapley was in charge of the investigation into that just had this fantastic development with Credit Suisse, UBS. And so he is a very talented individual and was just thrown aside because he stood up and did the right thing and called out the DOJ for covering up for Joe Biden and Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
The cover-up of Joe Biden continues.
It sure does. Miranda, real quick before you go, on the Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg comparison, interesting to see now that we could see TikTok go to Elon Musk, that China is actually thinking maybe Elon Musk is the best buyer of TikTok. How do you weigh that into all of this?
Look, again, I don't think it's good for these tech titans to amass too much power of their own. I think there's another, Kevin O'Leary has another bid. I think it would be wrong to allow Elon Musk to take TikTok.
And Frank McCourt as well. Miranda, always a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thank you.